Good morning. It is the 16th of August. It's a Sunday. Read something in the news this morning that's kind of put me in a weird headspace. Reform, the political party, part of their kind of promises or part of their pledge for if they're elected is to cut PIP or to basically just get rid of it altogether, and to prioritize disability payments and financial aid for those who need them. Right. That's the context. I'm not filming this again. I've tried this a couple times now, but I've set up. The sun's nice. I think I'm just gonna kind of fly with it and let's see how we do. I was walking up here and I was taking some videos of some pigeons by the waterfall, and I thought to myself, like, we used to use them like they were messengers during the war, during the Great War and World War II. They were really, really important, and without them we wouldn't have won the war. And I think that now we look at them as rodents. We look at them as a problem. We look at them as an issue on the outskirts that needs to be exterminated. We look at them as pests. We don't see them as our spiritual brothers walking the earth with us. We don't see it that way anymore. I think that that's transferable. I think that attitude permeates in a lot of different places. Obviously, yeah. When it comes down to the disability thing, I think that the attitude is, okay, well, there are going to be people that are on disability benefits that probably shouldn't be on them because they are doing benefit fraud, this, that, and the other. To my understanding, benefit fraud is a very, very small percentage of overall people that claim benefits. It's like a very, very small fraction of them that are like actually lying and shouldn't be getting the benefits that they're getting. It's a very, very small percentage of people. And I don't think it's reflective of the wider kind of perspective of the person who has hidden disabilities or who struggles mentally or physically, that can't work, who then feels the need to claim PIP, or whether it be a different benefit. We rely on the welfare system in order to survive. I'll give you a little bit of story about my PIP. So I was rejected once, rejected twice, did the mandatory reconsideration, that was rejected. So as it stood, I had 0 points. Rejected over and over again. I was told by advocates, by citizens' advice, I'd been kind of doing a lot of work to get in contact with people who knew how the system worked. They'd said to me, look, you just need to keep on pushing. If you take them to court, they're most likely to kind of just award you this. The reason they're taking people to court is they don't really want to award people it, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, cool, fine. I went to court. I didn't really expect anything. But again, I was a person at that time who didn't really know what was going on with himself mentally. He didn't really know a lot of the problems he was dealing with. I still don't. I think I'm slowly getting there, but that will be later in this discussion. I think what happened was I was just shocked because I went in there and I said the exact same things that I'd said time and time and time again on multiple phone calls to people at the job center. I had made the same points countless times. I'd said I struggle looking after myself. I struggle brushing my teeth, doing the basic things, and I struggle with my sleep. I struggle with anxiety, depression, you know, big fucking buzzwords that people just do not understand disability again, and I'll get into that. But I think that my attitude was, okay, well, all I can do is tell them what I'm dealing with. If they're not prepared to recognize what I'm going through, then okay, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I think that I struggled so much whilst I was waiting for that to be processed and it was being rejected and this, that, and the other, because I thought to myself, I'm having to do all this work, you know, access to medical records, NHS. Here's a fun fact. You can't access your own NHS records unless you appeal or unless you do an application to access them. I went to my doctors. They said, we don't have your records. If you wanted a long-standing record, you would have to contact the NHS and get it yourself. I did that. Access to information records, got all of it. Big pack. Took it to court. They said, okay, yeah. I was awarded enhanced PIP on the grounds of daily living. I did not get anything for mobility. They said, your argument for your mobility isn't strong enough. We cannot award you this based on mobility. I said, okay, whatever. I was just happy to walk out of there with an actual good decision. I wasn't expecting that, you know what I mean? So then when I started to kind of process that after the fact, and I'd said, I've spent so long, I was in homeless prevention for a couple of years, and someone driving past, let's what a nice shot I've set up, eh? Anyways, so yeah, again, I felt like I'd said the same things and they were received differently depending on what layer of bureaucracy I was on. And they felt more or less inclined to help based on where I was in the system. Where we're at now is in 2027, so next year, I will have to reapproach and I'll have to be reassessed for my PIP. Now, since 2024, when it was awarded, or not even 24, since 2025, when it was awarded, I do not really think that the kind of arguments I went to them with, I don't think that those things have really changed a lot in my life. And I think that I deal with things relatively the same. You know, I think that I've definitely built better coping mechanisms, and I'm slowly getting better looking after myself and doing stuff that will make me feel good, things like that. But I feel like on the reapproach, I'm going to say the exact same things. And what's going to happen is, most likely, is that because the bar has been raised, I will be rejected again. Now, look, I can understand the wider, economically, we're struggling a lot in this country. I understand that. I don't want to get into a lot of the wider stuff, so I think it's such a long conversation, but I think that at the very least, that there's a massive wealth divide in this country. I think that a lot of people aren't really prepared to recognize that. There's a lot of poor people in this country, a lot of poor people in Great Britain. The majority of us do not have any money, and we we live in a system that is governed, and decisions are made based upon a very, very small percentage of this country's interests, I should say. And I think that you know, people have obviously had these discussions in the past. They've said, the Conservatives took a lot of money out of the welfare system over the last 20 years. Like, public services have gone down the toilet. You see the NHS being massively underfunded. You see youth clubs closing, young people not having like a third space to congregate in, and just having to kind of just exist out and about. That's why you see all these lads on their e-scooters and that, because they don't have the community they would have had even 10-15 years ago. They would have had some sort of community intervention that would have helped them, you know, align with like-minded people. Anyways, you get the point. They closed the youth clubs. They took all the money out of the NHS. A relative of mine told me that their swimming lessons used to be £1 under Tony Blair. So, say what you want about Blair, but the swimming lessons for children in primary school were basically free. They were £1. And young children who couldn't afford to learn to swim because they don't have their own private pool, or because they can't afford to get lessons at like a private rate, had access to that via the education system. That was a positive thing. A lot of these things have been cut and removed. Anyways, we are at a point now where a lot of people will say, oh, well, people don't have any money because of this. People don't have any money because of that, right? And there's a lot of stuff that I'm just not going to get into today because it's bigger than me. I'm a mixed race guy, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm pretty much the definition of this country, you know, like, both my parents are working class. I feel very, very British in that way. And I'm proud of that, but I think that, yeah, there are some wider topics that I'm just not going to get into today. So, again, what I want to focus on, or focus back on, is the benefit cuts. Because my assumption is that, as I said, ultimately at a point for the next couple of years, I'm going to be reassessed, and it's going to come under it's going to come under contention whether I should be on PIP or whether I shouldn't be on PIP. Now, there are probably things, who knows? Maybe people watch this and I've got comments and they'll say, you look able. Why do you need to be on PIP for? That would be a lightning rod for me to get in the comments and go off and tell you ifs and buts. But from my perspective, the reason that I think that I pushed for it so hard is because there is just certain things that I'm not very good at dealing with, like waking up at the same time every day. I struggle with mild insomnia, so I can't really sleep regularly. I haven't slept since I was like fucking tiny. I haven't slept since I was like 5. I'd be waking up in the middle of the night, like watching Milkshake on Channel 5 in the morning, you know what I mean? Like, I've never really had a good sleep schedule. And I feel like, you know, that is obviously negative, a negative when it comes to looking for work. There's a couple of other bits, you know, like my physical health isn't great. I've got an overpronated ankle on my right hand side and just really, really flat feet. I can't really walk very far without being in pain. I can do it because I don't have a choice, but it's painful to do so. And this is part of the argument, is that a lot of ableist people will say, okay, well, if you can do it, then clearly you can manage, right? Just because I can do something while I struggle through it doesn't mean that I'm able to do it. Like, and that counts for anyone with a hidden disability. Just because you can grim and bear it and get through it does not mean you are able to do it. It just doesn't. It's just so stupid. Because there are so many people that will say, oh yeah, well, like, I've got anxiety, this, that, and the other, I get on with it. And I'm sat there like, what are you, like, it genuinely doesn't make any sense. I think that again, and this was part of another take, but I'll speak about it now because this is the long take. So I think that a lot of people conflate wealth with worth, and wealth with moral good. So they'll see a wealthy man and they'll say, well, he must have earned what he has. He must be worthy of what he has. Most of the time, people are hard working, they deserve what they've got. No problems. Truck. The counter argument is, though, that if you are poor, you must have done something wrong. You must deserve to be poor. You must have not worked hard enough. You must have done something wrong to deserve poverty. And even if that is a young child, or even if that is a person that is growing up, can't even work legally, people are going to look down on that person and they're going to say, well, their parents didn't try hard enough. That's why their life looks the way it does. But I tend to track back more than one generation because I think they're making the argument that, your parents should have tried hard enough. Your parents should have tried harder isn't fair. I think that these issues kind of, they roll back generation after generation, and kind of like the attitudes of like the working class are kind of the kind of thing that have probably been around for like a good 100 years now, or just under, like 60 to 80 years. I think that the attitude's been relatively the same, which is, again, this very headstrong, keep calm, carry on, pull yourself up by your bootstraps attitude that works, but isn't inclusive, and also doesn't recognize hidden disability. It doesn't recognize. I think that with all the ways that money is being used in the West, and all of the things that we're wasting money on in Western economies, for us to look at the most vulnerable people in our society and say, yeah, those people are the problem. They're the ones that need to have their funding cut. They need to just get on with it like the rest of us. I saw something this morning on Twitter. There was a guy, he'd said that he started working when he was in his like early 20s. He said he had constant panic attacks at work for about the first few years. He said he never looked for any external support. He said he dealt with it on his own. He got on with it. And now he's doing okay, he said, I think that people use disability as an excuse, and people would rather throw their hands up and say that they can't do it than try. That argument has validity to it, kind of, but by and large, it's bullshit. It doesn't, for the majority of people's situations, it doesn't make any sense. What I'm trying to say is, on the one hand, yes, you're going to get the person that, because of the life they've lived, they've never really been pushed into difficult situations, so they throw their hands up and they say, I can't do that because X, Y, and Z. But mostly it's because they've never had to, and therefore they're just going to keep on kind of like living within that, people will kind of like do it for me attitude, which like I had, or I think I've kind of like slowly got better at that, but I think I dealt with that myself, that I looked at the way my life was and the problems I had, and I said, well, I don't deserve to deal with this on my own. I should have support from someone else. Now, in some in some cases that's valid, right? But in other cases it's not. As I've said, I think that if you're a person that, again, and this is a very, very small fucking group, so don't get all defensive about it, right? But there is a small group of people that just don't really bother, and that's fair, okay? There are people I know who I've had conversations with that have said, I don't want a job, I don't care, I don't want to try, and they're very, very difficult people. I'm not going to sit here and try and claim that these are easy people to deal with, but they are a minority. The majority of people, and this is why this argument makes no sense, to solve, oh well, like I dealt with it and I came out all right. Did you though? I think a lot of people are undiagnosed neurodiverse. There's a lot of people that are walking around with trauma. There's a lot of people that are walking around with a lot of these things, just throwing them on other people, and that's why the world looks the way it does. And I think that when people say that they dealt with it, it comes from this bitterness and resentment that they didn't get the support that they needed. And it's really, really tough because yes, they didn't get the support that they needed. I think that the boomer generation and Gen X, they didn't really have the same amount of mental health awareness, and didn't have CAMs, didn't have the support that my generation and younger generations will have and still have. Fingers crossed, like, mental health support stays, because holy shit, what the hell is this? Anyways, I think that just structurally we need to recognize that we can't I lost my train of thought. I'm gonna go back to admiring the view for a second. I'm gonna chuck in a couple clips of just me exploring and having a look around, because as much as this is a kind of serious topic, the way that I'm approaching this is that I still have so much hope, and I know that there's a lot of good in the world, and I know that if given the opportunity, that people want to understand. I don't think that apathy I don't think it can exist in a silo. I think that apathy comes from a general lack to want to understand, and there kind of being no universal accountability for that understanding, right? So people are apathetic because the person next to them is apathetic, and because neither of them are punished socially. I'm not calling for people to get their heads chopped off or anything. That is not what I'm calling for here. All I'm saying is that people feel just in having apathy for others, because people have apathy for them. People may have not been there for them or recognize the things that they went through. So they say, oh, well, what's the difference if I pass it forward? So why things look the way they do, I think, a little bit, is that a lot of people are regurgitating a lot of the lack that they have within themselves onto other people. And yeah, projection, this kind of, but I don't like buzzwords. I don't like buzzwords. I think that yeah, this is a multifaceted topic. I'm gonna finish what I was saying, which is that this young man who tweeted and said, yeah, so like I'm 20, I've had extreme anxiety and I managed to go to work anyway, other people can manage it. I think that in his irrespective life, yeah, he might have been able to manage it, and I mean, fair play to him. But I think that it would have been a lot easier for him if he'd had support. I think that not easier, but less difficult. Things would have been less difficult, and things can be less difficult. And there's no merit in making things more difficult. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like if we have the ability to support people, why not support people? It just doesn't make any sense. And I think that this apathy again comes from class envy, because a lot of people who are claiming PIP are my generation. A lot of younger people are claiming PIP. Now, you could argue that's a byproduct of the fact that the employment rate is the way it is. People can't actually get jobs. They feel like, for me, I know that, okay, well, if I could just find a job that was like, okay, maybe maximum 4 days a week, they recognize my issues. Okay, he's got a speech impediment, he struggles with his mobility, he's got some mental health stuff going on. I feel like they would recognize, or that would be the only way that I would be able to find employment, because they'd have to recognize and accommodate the issues that I have. And this is part of the wider issue again, is that people are being told to look for work. I saw another article. I'm probably gonna chuck some visual aids on so it's not just me talking for however the fuck long this video is. I think that I saw this article. It said that there was a disabled man. He was in a wheelchair, like he couldn't feed himself. His parents looked after him full time. His parents were full-time carers for him. They had been asked by the DWP, by the job center, to look for work for him. Now, look, in an ideal world, everyone would have a job. But the problem is that a lot of employment spaces don't want to accommodate people that have disabilities. Ow. Can you hear the church bells ring? It's kind of loud. We're gonna wait for that to end. And then we're gonna try and carry on this discussion here. What a lovely day. It must be church bells, eh? Because they ain't stopping. I mean, church bells must be wedding bells. Oh, seagull. Oh, fucking swan. I mean, do you see him on cam? No. Where is he? Where is he in conjunction with the camera? I wonder. The church bells have blessed us with silence for the time being greeted by a couple of swans. There's a swan there. He's chilling. You saw his little head pop up for a second there? No, so I think second half of this, I want to kind of touch on a couple of different things that I spoke about in the first half, but just like aren't as broad. They're more specific. So one of them would be, again, we're talking about classism. That's the, oh, you see? What? As soon as I uttered the word, the church bell started again. I guess it just ain't my day, is it? Well, it's a lovely day, but not the day for filming. I don't think we're gonna get silence. I have a hunch. Fuck! This is such a nice shot as well, like, so pretty, like, ah, so frustrating. Such a nice shot. We're gonna have to just move. We're gonna have to just move, and it sucks, but nothing we can do about it, is there? I don't really think we can speak over them because they're too consistent in the mix. Like, it sounds like the bells are like tired. It sounds like they're tired. Right. Before we get interrupted, I think that, again, yes, it's just, again, to touch on class envy and classism. Just another thing I thought I'd mention was that I feel like a lot of people who are equally working class, like myself, I'm here right now. I have a Supreme t-shirt on. I bought this like fucking 5 years ago now, but the idea is the same. It's a nice t-shirt. It's expensive. It represents a brand that is an expensive brand. What does expensive clothing represent? It represents wealth. What does wealth represent? Worth. This is what I'm saying. So even the working class, I think, are kind of, it's no one's fault, but it's just kind of how we're wired, is to say that one person has less than the other person because of visual factors or external factors that are outside of their control. But I think that the most interesting part is, yeah, the fact that people will say, hey, please. It's short. I'm gonna have to move. You know the meme that's like rich guy and like poor guy, and like the poor guy has like all the expensive clothes, and the rich guy has like the really cheap clothes. It's kind of like, again, what I think the working class do quite a lot, which is we try and substitute actual substantial wealth with material things, like just clothing. As soon as I start talking, they fucking pipe up. Fuck you! Alright, we're getting up, we're moving. Fuck's sake. So we're at location 3. Yeah, it's not ideal. Obviously we had a little bit too much going on at last location. It was very nice, but just a little bit too busy, and yeah, we got the seagulls and a bunch of other stuff, so this is gonna have to suffice for the final part of this video. It's kind of flat, not the best looking, but like we hear that's the water over there. Do we just stick with what I decided before? I keep sitting down and setting up. Yeah. Alright, give me a sec. Okay, so this is location 3. A little bit cleaner, got some leading lines going on. Sure, right, wonderful. So, a lot of people in the working classes, me included, I think that, well, classically working class, I don't work, but working class, right? Um, I think that a lot of people, yeah, we tend to look down on each other when like you're just as poor as the next guy, but because you you might have a nice car or you have a nicer house than he does, it's all on finance anyway, but as long as you look like you're doing better than the next person, you can look down on them. And that's still quite prevalent, even with people that are all working class, right? So the people that are supposed to be banding together and recognizing that they are all part of the same social group, there's still rings in that social group, and people will still look down on people that have less than them. And I think that's insane, because it's like we're never going to be able to have the real conversation, which is, you know, the fact that we have a massive class issue in this country, and we won't recognize the fact that there are a lot of poor people that are suffering, and we would rather cut the most vulnerable people in our society's benefits than recognize that we have class envy and that we value things that we shouldn't value over each other. And I think that again, this is a very broad topic, and it's very hard to specify what I'm kind of getting at with the wider thing. But I think it just upsets me so much when I see people who have been convinced that they're not trying hard enough, or that they're just not working hard enough, when they're actually not well and they're actually really, really struggling. Or there are people that are really, really poor and have no money, and they're being told by the wider zeitgeist that, again, they're not hustling hard enough. They need to start a Shopify account. They need to do some sort of bullshit. You know what I mean? As an example, I have a speech impediment, right? I have a stutter, and according to our government and according to other governments in the West and in the world, a stutter isn't a disability. You know, I feel like my speech impediment has affected me in a lot of different ways in my life, and it's kind of hindered me from being able to excel socially and being able to put myself out there. And I think that it's affected my ability to get certain jobs. I think that just not being able to communicate effectively is a very, very, very massive thing, especially in the modern workforce. They need you to be communicative, engaged, and because I can't be that, I can't do these jobs, right? So even if I'm capable in other ways, because of my speech impediment, because of that kind of immediate. And the thing is, again, and the reason I bring it up is because it's not recognized as a disability, even as it stands, right? So I'm not on PIP or any of this stuff because of my stutter. It's not even recognized in my NHS documents. It's nowhere to be seen. And it's such a massive part of my, not identity, but kind of like a lot of, it's a big issue that I deal with daily. You know what I mean? So for them to say, or for the wider perspective to be that this isn't a disability, is incredibly invalidating. And I already hold the weight of that. But what's happening is that people on a wider perspective that have classified disabilities, that, thank God above, are classified as disabilities, are now also going to be losing they're going to be losing their support. It just doesn't make any sense. These are the most vulnerable people in our society. They're not using taxpayers' money to get to have an easy ride or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, these people are struggling heavily. A lot of people would rather that they weren't disabled, and that they could work, and that they could contribute to society and such. Another thing I wanted to speak on today was the concept of the shithole. I heard saw something on Facebook recently. Someone was talking back and forth about something or the other. The context isn't important. They'd said, "Oh, well, the place I live, it's nice. We don't have those problems." Someone had commented and they'd said, "You live in a shithole." Now, as far as I know, he lives in the same country as we do. So are we looking at where our neighbors are from and saying that they live in shitholes? What the hell are we doing? This is classism. This is disgusting. We shouldn't be looking down on other people because they have less than the next person. That's why everything looks the way it does. We need to recognize that we are all fucking individuals with value. Who cares about all this, money that? It's destroying everything. Everyone is so apathetic, and all they care about is this hustler's mentality, and everyone's always about grinding. Oh yeah, get out of your situation. You just need to open a new Shopify account. You just need to grind a little bit more. You just need to do this. You do that. It's all this meritocracy bullshit where people turn around and say, "Oh well, you're just not working hard enough." This attitude is insane. It doesn't make any sense. And I know that this has been a little bit ranty for the last couple of minutes, but it's because it's really, really hard to articulate how I feel about it. I think that with my own disabilities and my stutter, which isn't recognized as a disability, which you'll recognize in this piece of content because I'm trying to get this done with minimal cuts. Obviously, I've had to move a couple times, but I should have just fucking stayed in the same spot. But I mean, at least it makes for more interesting content, doesn't it? If I'm moving around a little bit. But yeah, like, I just think that it's just a very, very scary time because yes, you could argue that compared to other points in history, we are probably, this is probably the kind of best humanity has ever looked. But we still have this apathy for the most vulnerable people in our society. And I've seen so many people online saying, "Oh, this is a fucking great idea. It means that people who are actually disabled will get support, and the people that are like scamming the government, which is impossible because I literally have to go through 3 layers of fucking convolution. I had to go to court and appeal this shit, and people are trying to say I don't deserve it. Like, maybe I'm internalizing it, but I know that there are other people who are relatively similar to me when it comes to the issues they deal with, and they're not able people. Like, they struggle. They're not well a lot of the time. Okay, this is so badly fucking lit, bro. Like, it's so shadowy and shit. Oh, so frustrating because like it's just nothing better. There's just nothing better I'm gonna be able to get today, and I don't really want to keep changing locations because it's just so fucked at this point. Like, I'm actually doing fucking forced perspective with this tree. It's crazy. So you can't see my face, but the last thing I wanted to discuss was that I've heard a lot of stories. I'm sure they have varying levels of truth to them, but from what I've heard, there are people that have had their benefits cut and then they've been found dead in their homes because they've just starved to death because they don't have any support. And I think that we can't allow that to be our legacy in this country. We can't allow, it can't be that we just give up on people that aren't able, and that we don't continue to accommodate them in our society and make sure that make sure that everyone is equally treated, and that everyone has the opportunity to have a life that's not just suffering, because it's just hell. I think that you shouldn't just have to suffer because you're disabled. It's like, well, there should be a system in place that supports people, and the fact that this is coming under contention now, and that like it could just, it like, God forbid reform don't get in. I mean, it probably won't happen, but it kind of airs this social discussion about, oh well, are too many people being diagnosed with neurodivergence and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, on the contrary, as I said earlier on, I think that a lot of people are walking around undiagnosed autistic, undiagnosed ADHD, people that have had it their whole lives, and have just got on with it, so to speak. And this is what I'm saying, is that people that hold this argument of like, oh, well, we just have to get on with it. You just have to get on with it. The idea is that like if we don't recognize that this is wrong, and that people do have really serious problems that they deal with every single day, and they're not trivial, oh well, you just need to try harder issues. These are like clinical health issues that people aren't being recognized widely for via the NHS. People have to chase and chase and chase. I still don't have a diagnosis for what's really wrong with my physical health, which is why I'm still kind of having to chase disability benefit, because they keep rejecting other pieces of fucking benefit. You know what I mean? So I'm having to say, hey, I just went to court and fucking did all that. Why am I having to do it again? And they're saying, well, it's a different system. This is it again, like over-compartmentalization, because that was hard to say for some reason. Bureaucracy, just paperwork, layers of contrivance. As I was saying before, you can't get to one layer without dealing with all the layers underneath it. You know what I mean? So you're constantly having to talk to people that have no idea who you are. You're having to re-traumatize yourself by speaking about all these problems you deal with, and just, it's so invalidating and so dehumanizing that there has to be a better way to treat people that are vulnerable and that need support. I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I just think that what we need to recognize is that there are people who just are less able, and that shouldn't be a radical opinion to have. I think that I don't think it's just to claim that, well, if X, Y, and Z were resolved, then you'd be able to go work as a bricklayer. I know for a fact that I don't have the physical capability to be able to do that kind of job. I can't fucking stand up for long enough. That's just me in my own situation. I know there are plenty of fucking people who have way worse disability problems than I am. They can't even get out of the house and kind of do what I've done today. You know, there are a lot of people that are immobilized because of disabilities they have, mental and physical. And people are claiming, oh well, it's just a bit of anxiety. They can get out, can't they? What are we doing when? And this is the thing, we're looking at the wrong people. We're looking at the wrong groups to look at where money could be fucking better used or fucking better spent. The economy is skewed like this. I can't even fit it in frame. It's skewed like, most people are like all the way the fuck where that tree is, right? Like way off. They're just not even like, it's just not even a fucking question of whether they're just a number on a piece of paper. And this is why I talk about fucking wealth disparity, is that there's so many people that have nothing, and then there are people that have more than they will ever need. That doesn't make any sense. Where's, like, the disparity is so wide. And then this is my final point, is that poverty is being used as a way to motivate people towards certain agendas. People's lack of financial stability, not being able to eat, people's hunger is being weaponized and is being used as a tool to radicalize them against other people. Instead of us just recognizing, oh, well, maybe you need some more help. What we're doing in politics is that we're saying, oh, it's that person's fault. It's that person's fault. So that we politicize it, so we trivialize it, so we're not actually looking at the real issue, which is that, again, this massive fucking wealth disparity. Like billionaire tax, I know is another fucking topic that people speak about all the time, but my point is that whilst we're fighting against each other, the people at the top are laughing. They're laughing because we're not looking in the right direction. We're not aiming the animosity in the right direction. Widely speaking, the working class is saying, "Ah, it's that purple. It's that poor person's fault." How? We're in the same boat to say, "Ah, it's that poor person's fault." What do you mean? We're both poor. We're both in the same situation, fighting against, or not fighting against, because there's no winning, but trying to survive in a system that benefits people who aren't us, that don't look like me and you. You know, and I think that's what I'll end it on, because again, yeah, it's just this social disparity. And it's hard to articulate because I don't want to say the 1%, I don't want to say this and the other. The middle class is disappearing. All we have now is rich and poor. That's it. There is no middle class these days, or at least there is for now, but there won't be very, very soon. There'll be people that have money and there'll be people that do not have money. And what's going to happen is that, again, wealth is going to be conflated with worth. How much money you have is going to be, it is going to be aligned with how worthy you are of support from society. Or how much money you have dictates how much people want to respect you or treat you with kindness. That doesn't sound like a nice world to live in. It doesn't. It sounds like hell. It sounds fucking terrifying, if you ask me. We shouldn't be looking at others and saying, you are lesser. We are all one people on this earth. We need to recognize that, and we need to fucking make a change. Like, it's getting so bad out here. People can't afford to eat. We need to recognize that we just need to band together and recognize we are one people. And as I said before about this whole shithole thing, it's like, oh, so because where you come from, you would deem where you come from better than where I come from. In what ways? In all these different ways that people think matter socially. But the most important one is, that area is poor. That's why it's a shithole. Ah, that's a council estate. So what? There are people, there are humans living there. They deserve fucking respect, and they deserve equal treatment, same as everyone else. Just because they're from somewhere else, just because they live in a poorer area, well, so because an area hasn't got financial funding, it's a shithole. Make that make sense. Anyways. I think, again, the most important thing to remember from everything I've said today is that we need to stop looking down on each other. We need to stop looking down on others. We need to stop thinking that we're better than each other, because I think it's just a super, super dangerous place to be right now in society, to say that one person's life is worth more than the next. Very, very scary ideology to have. That's why I don't subscribe to it. I value everyone the same. I recognize everyone as a person that deserves respect, you know? And that's the way it should be. I think, again, I'm just hoping that in the future things get better for people with disabilities and people that are struggling financially, and I hope that there's a way that we can work towards a better future, you know, because I know it's a lot of negativity, but I have so much passion because I want it to be better. I want the world to be how I mentioned it was before, earlier on in the video, where I said that people getting swimming lessons for £1, and people could afford to eat. You weren't spending like £150 on a food shop, you know. Like, I think it's possible to get back there. We just need to work together. We need to recognize that there are people that have a lot of money and they don't care about the poor. If anything, they're trying to make things more difficult for us, you know. And I think that we need to recognize that class divide, and we also need to not subscribe to it. We need to stop saying, "Oh, well, I've got nicer trainers than he does," because it's the same fucking thing, just on a different scale. We are all equal down here, you know. Unless you're driving around like fucking this guy on his chopper. So loud. Like, unless you actually have like something that puts you above other people, you know. The saying goes, you know, everyone's grave is the same depth. We're all gonna die. Just need to treat each other better, I think, and not be so judgmental of each other. I don't know, I'll probably make some more videos like this at some point. It's been cool just walking around today and trying to find some nice places to shoot, and yeah. Let's make sure that we prioritize disability, and we make sure that we encourage people to stand up and say that they need help, because it shouldn't be a bad thing to need help.